Okay, let's talk about buyer expectations. Um, Buying a house is probably the most exciting thing one of the most exciting things that we can do. And I find that managing the process and making it go so much smoother is about having really good, realistic buyer expectations. So I put together a little list and I'm going to try to remember them. Number one, getting pre-qualified with your lender. This is, again, so important. I talk about it all the time because one cannot go without the other. Buying a home cannot be done, of course, without obtaining a loan. But it's so important to talk to a lender before you do anything, before you go and look for a house, because two things will happen. One, your lender is going to take a look at your credit report, and not just the score, because a lot of us do know our credit score, but he'll be able to take a look at the items on your credit report and to let you know if there's anything that may come up or become an issue right before closing, which is, what you want to avoid at all costs. And then two, he'll be able to take a look at your finances, your W-2, your bank statements, and your documents that support your income, and let you know how much house you can actually afford. And this is super, super important, because the worst thing is to go out and to find a house that you absolutely love, and then you go on Monday and you get in touch with your lender and you find out you can't afford that home. And we want to always avoid disappointment like that. So everything in this proper order, the first thing to do would be to get pre-qualified and talk with your lender. And then the second thing that I advise on that list, really having a list is a big deal, because you want to have a list of what you want in your home as far as your features that you want in your home. But more importantly than that is making a list of your needs, your wants, and your deal breakers. And that list the realistic list should have more items on there that are your needs than your wants. Because we all want our dream home, especially when we finally get financing and we have an opportunity to buy. But we have to remember that we're not going to be able to maybe get everything that we want in that home. So what are the things that we need? This would be, do you need a one-story home? Do you need to live in a certain school district? Do you need maybe to have 3 bedrooms as opposed to 2, or 4 bedrooms as opposed to 3? Those are needs. Wants would be more along the line of, I want a totally updated kitchen, or I'd love to have hardwood floors. And all those things are important too, but just keeping in mind that there are some things that maybe if we don't get them in our home, we can change our home and make it more into what we want it to be, which is really it's a big part of home ownership, and it's a big part of the pride of home ownership and the fun of owning a home. And then the third thing on that list being your deal breakers. And that should be hopefully just 1 or 2 things that would be a deal breaker. If the home maybe doesn't have a garage and you need a garage, or if the home you find out is outside of the desired school district that you need. These are all very important things that you want to talk to us about, your needs, your wants, and your deal breakers, because we can go out the gate in looking for that perfect home for you. And I always kind of say that we as realtors, we're kind of like matchmakers, in that we take what you want and we find the perfect house for you, and we put the two of you together, and hopefully you get to that end goal, which is closing. But before you get to that goal, you have to go through the process of your financing, which is when you're courting, when you're having your appraisal and your inspection, and you're going through the loan process, and you're making sure that you're going to have enough money to provide for that home. All of that is a part of it, just to get to that end goal of being signed, sealed, delivered at closing table. And before that, on your list of things, you want to make sure that you are realistic in what you can buy in your price range. And this is so, so important, because, many times we're so tempted to want to buy caviar on a beer budget, or maybe I said that wrong. It's caviar on a tuna fish budget, or maybe we're trying to buy some champagne on a beer budget. Did I say it right? Anyway, but just wanting to buy more than what we can actually afford. And so being realistic and going into the home and saying it's not perfect, doesn't have everything that I want, but I like this home and I can make it into exactly what I want. And then is the home something that you can see reselling in the future? You may want to stay there for a long time, and that's perfectly understandable, but when you go and you look at a home, you want to think, is this house that I'm about to buy something that someone else would want to buy? Because a home is an investment, and remember that first and foremost, it is an investment in yourself. You're going from paying rent to paying to yourself and paying into equity. And so those are things that you want to look at that maybe should matter more than the granite countertops or a stainless steel refrigerator. These are all really nice things and very important, but maybe if we cannot have everything that we want on our budget, we can just make sure that we're buying a sound, really good investment. And then another thing about buyer expectations, that being said, prices. As realtors, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is being able to negotiate a deal for you. And that deal, it may not be the lowest price, but what we do is we want to get everything that you want. We want to make sure that you get the price at the house that you want to get it for. The house at the price that you want to get it for. I'm tired today, y'all. You want to make sure that we get you the items in the house that you want. We want to make sure we get you a warranty. These are things that are important. But being realistic with your expectations, sometimes people tend to think, my realtor can talk them down. So your price range might be $130 and you're looking at $150. Right now we're in what is called a seller's market. And even if we were not, maybe talking a seller down $20,000 isn't always going to be realistic. It's more realistic if your price range is, say, $130,000 to look into some homes that maybe are $135,000, something just a little bit above, and that way there is that room for negotiation. But right now in today's market, I try to help my buyers to understand that it's always better to look for something that's not at your max budget. Why? One reason is because you're giving yourself a little bit of room. If your budget is $160, let's look at $150. And then that way you're able to negotiate. You have a little bit of room to maybe if your seller is not going to pay the closing costs, you're able to bid high enough where you can work that closing cost into your deal. Or try to stay a little below your budget because the end goal is you want to stay in that house for a long time. So just because you're told you can buy a max of a certain amount, try to consider, how am I going to make these payments every month? And is it realistically something that I can do? That's something that's very important to think about. And lastly, buyer expectations include being available. Because again, I just mentioned it's a seller's market and the competition is very fierce. So if we call you and we say, hey, I found the perfect house for you, we need to go take a look at this house. If it's Tuesday and you say we can go on Saturday, I got to tell you that house is probably going to go to the other buyer that was available to look at it. And we don't want that to happen. Just trying to be available. As realtors, we really try to work around your schedule. So if I have to show you a house at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to show you the house at 8 in the morning because we want to get that home for you. So it's just good to have that on your list of expectations too, being available. And really it's just about going into it with an open mind, as I always say, and keeping the communication open, letting us know what you're expecting, having a good conversation with myself or with Mike, which we're always happy to do, and hoping to hear from you soon. So I would like to talk more to you about this. Get in touch with us through our Facebook page or give us a call. Thank you.